Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee, and I'm joined here today by Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo, as well as some of the fantastic attorneys from my office who made today possible. Jonathan Gabriel Kaim Van Baum, Alex Kaiser, Chan Tyser, and Neil Sarker. We're here because Trump has gone too far. He's issued an executive order that exceeds his powers, that violates the Constitution, and that targets everyday people under the guise of efficiency. He wants to lay off hundreds of thousands of federal workers, people who protect our health, who help us in disasters, and who ensure that folks in our community get their Social Security. So today, Harris County is joining a coalition of labor organizations and local governments from across the country, and we're suing them. Let's be clear, this order is not about eliminating waste. It's about gutting the federal government and hurting working people. The executive order freezes hiring so agencies can only fill one job for every few that are vacated. It lays off employees at an unprecedented scale in the history of our country with no regard for the law or what Congress has to say. And most importantly, it eliminates entire offices and services without congressional approval. This is an unconstitutional, extra statutory power grab. He's not downsizing government, he is kneecapping it. Trump's order will slash staffing at more than 20 federal agencies, but let's talk about three that hit home to folks here in Harris County. Social Security offices. These offices already have long lines. They're how people in our community access benefits that they've paid into their entire lives. But now the Trump administration will institute staff cuts and people will be pushed away from getting what they've earned. The EPA is losing 65% of its workforce potentially under President Trump's plan. In neighborhoods like Fifth Ward, Kashmere Gardens, Pleasantville, we've spent the last few years fighting environmental racism, and the EPA has been one of the few federal agencies that actually shows up. You slash their money, and our communities will suffer. The VA. Houston has one of the largest VA hospitals in the entire country, but with many of its workers on the chopping block, wait times will grow and care will suffer. We owe our veterans better than this. Harris County is suing today because this is not theoretical. We are already seeing the harm to the services that we provide. Because CDC staff are gone, our health department can't get timely data on disease outbreaks. Because FEMA is laying off people. When we interact with FEMA and the National Weather Service, we're still waiting on reimbursements from past hurricanes. But without that additional staff, our information will be lower than necessary to serve our communities. And because USDA inspectors could be laid off, those inspectors are necessary at our ports of entry and at our food processing plants to protect us from the spread of disease. Harris County residents and our government are directly impacted. This order puts lives, livelihood, and public safety at risk. So we're going to be asking a court to immediately stop President Trump and his agencies from carrying out this plan. This is a pattern. President Trump has been sued dozens of times across the country for violating the law, yet he keeps doing it. Just recently, Harris County sued him over his attempt to block funding for health screenings for refugees. These are folks who have fled from war-torn countries. When we brought him into court, the administration backed down and those funds were freed back up for the county. President Trump is not some master of efficiency. He's using executive power like a weapon. He doesn't want to govern, he wants to control. And while he's out taking cues from Elon Musk, we're here fighting for the people in our federal government so that they're able to do their job. So who's joining us in this fight? We are not alone. This lawsuit is alongside unions representing federal workers, other local governments, and together we're sending a clear message. President Trump has gone too far, and we will not let him dismantle our federal government by executive fiat. Harris County is home to almost 5 million residents, and we've seen how climate disasters, public health threats, and economic struggles have hit the hardest when our government does not show up. We need a functioning government and not the chaos that we're seeing out of Washington right now. We're suing because our communities deserve clean air, timely health care, and the benefits that they've earned. This lawsuit is about stopping an illegal executive order and protecting the people who will most feel the consequences. President Trump has gone too far, and we will not let him get away with it. A quick note, I want to thank the fantastic lawyers in our office who have spent time working quickly and diligently to get this lawsuit filed. This executive order was signed in February, but we decided to sue now because we're now starting to see the real-world impacts of the decisions that President Trump has made. With that, I will pass it off to our fantastic Harris County Judge, Lina Hidalgo.
Thank you so much, County Attorney Menefee, and I echo your gratitude to your attorneys who've done such incredible work, and of course to you for your leadership on this. It's so important. It is something that is absolutely tangible for every resident of Harris County, and we've all heard about the tens and hundreds of thousands of people that have been laid off already. But we've been able to surmise from publicly available data, from leaks, from statements, that there are tens of thousands more people that are going to be laid off in agencies that are crucial to Harris County and Houston. So, all of us want to see a world where the government is nimble and is effective and allows capable people in government to reach their full potential and not be blocked by bureaucratic bloat. All of us want that. We have had analyses here in Harris County every year as we do the budget. We analyze what we can possibly cut, how we can be more efficient. So, of course, everybody wants to attain that. However, what the administration is doing right now is not to look for that efficiency. The Trump administration is pretty much undergoing a stunt that impacts the lives of people day to day. If the goal is to make headlines and create chaos instead of efficiency, that's what is happening. The administration is destroying systems people depend on. He says he wants to make the Pentagon, FEMA, Veteran Affairs more efficient, yet he fires indiscriminately. Indiscriminate firings are only creating chaos, unpredictability, loss of institutional knowledge, and a loss of services. Very specifically, people could see longer wait times to access Social Security benefits they've earned if these cuts move forward. There are planned cuts to Social Security. People sometimes think of Social Security as a giveaway, something for other people, but remember, we all pay into it. We work hard, pay into Social Security all our lives so that we can depend on it if we need to. These cuts to Social Security would make it very difficult for our seniors, for those in our community, to be able to properly receive the benefits they need, because there needs to be systems in order to distribute those funds, to properly vet people, etc. Veterans, so many veterans who deserve all the respect in the world, they could face more delays getting health care at one of the largest VA hospitals in the country, right here in Harris County, and already veteran services are stretched too thin. Emergency response. I'm the Director of Emergency Management. Hurricane season is right around the corner, and we had 3 federally declared disasters just last year. I'll tell you from experience, when we had those federally declared disasters, it was a blessing to have FEMA come in as quickly as they could and provide aid in situations that went beyond what we could possibly do at the local level. Even then, they were stretched thin. Now, with planned cuts to FEMA, it's going to be even harder to recover if and when we face another major disaster. And here's another key part about emergency response. It's all about experience, institutional knowledge, the ability to work together. The indiscriminate nature of these firings mean that we're losing people that are part of that infrastructure, that basic level of communication and institutional knowledge that we need to operate in times of emergency or emergency recovery. Clean air and water protections could weaken. Critical research to develop innovations for HIV, cancer, Alzheimer's could also be reduced and is at risk. So they're looking at cutting EPA workforce by 65%. Environmental Protection Agency, I believe, as a free country, as somebody came to this country looking for freedom, we deserve the freedom to breathe that clean air. We can only do that if we have these specialist professionals enforcing the Clean Air Act and other legislations. If we're talking about agency layoffs when it comes to Social Security, seniors who've raised families, who've strengthened neighborhoods, who've laid the foundations for the communities we all love, are looking to not receive adequate benefits. And in terms of balancing the budget, a way to better balance our federal budget and reduce federal deficit spending would be to stop giving tax breaks to billionaires. You don't balance the budget by breaking promises to the people who built this country, specifically on Social Security, Medicaid, and other related services. So let me just end there. Let me repeat in Spanish. And I want to thank again our county attorney, his team, and the various organizations that are partnering with us in this. This is a very serious and important lawsuit. We are asking for these cuts not to happen, and we are doing that because we want to be able to continue providing life-saving and necessary services to the people of Harris County, and to you who pay for these services. Buenos días, quiero agradecerle al fiscal del condado Menefee y también a su equipo, el abogado del condado, que han trabajado tanto por presentar esta demanda, la cual nos ayudará a defendernos en contra de despidos masivos y amenazas para desmantelar no solo agencias federales, sino también la vitalidad económica de la cual dependen nuestros residentes aquí del condado Harris, en la ciudad de Houston y otras ciudades en nuestro condado. Como condado Harris hemos tenido que suponer por la prensa, documentos filtrados del gobierno, cuáles son los planes de esta administración federal, los despidos masivos que vienen. Ya han habido despidos de cientos de miles de trabajadores federales y ahora estamos escuchando que vienen más. Por ejemplo, reducciones de la fuerza de trabajo en la administración de Social Security, de Seguro Social, del departamento que apoya a los veteranos, muy crucial para nuestra región en la organización de manejo de emergencias del gobierno federal, FEMA, también la Organización Nacional de Salud Pública, que nos ayuda a analizar todo lo que entra, la comida que llega aquí al condado Harris a través de nuestro puerto para asegurarse que no hayan enfermedades en esas frutas, en esas comidas que importamos de otros sitios. Entonces, ¿qué significa estos planes y qué significa nuestra demanda? Le estamos pidiendo al sistema judicial que detenga estos planes del presidente Trump de despedir a decenas de miles de individuos de los cuales dependemos para servicios básicos. Todos queremos un gobierno eficiente, todos queremos ser muy responsables con cada dólar en el gobierno, a cualquier nivel de gobierno. Inclusive aquí en el condado Harris trabajamos cada año por analizar qué se puede cortar, qué podemos hacer más eficiente. Es algo que todo el mundo quiere, pero no se trata de despedir a gente al azar. ¿Qué sucede cuando simplemente quieres crear caos? Una historia, noticias que dicen que estás despidiendo a 1000 personas aquí, 1000 personas allá. ¿Qué sucede? Impactas los servicios de los cuales depende nuestra comunidad. A veces escuchamos acerca del servicio de seguridad social y de repente decimos, bueno, esto es algo para la gente que necesita ayuda del gobierno, que no trabaja, lo que sea. La realidad es que todos nosotros pagamos de nuestros salarios durante toda nuestra vida de trabajo, pagamos hacia el sistema de seguro social para que nos pueda apoyar a nosotros si llega esa necesidad. El hecho de que quieran cortar por un porcentaje enorme la agencia que nos ayuda a recibir esos beneficios de seguro social, especialmente para aquellas personas de la tercera edad, significa que no va a haber la habilidad de distribuir los fondos de una manera eficaz y de una manera que merecen estas personas que han trabajado toda su vida. Estamos viendo también reducciones que están planeando a la agencia de los veteranos. Bueno, como sabemos, tantas personas que han sacrificado mucho por proteger a nuestro país, por ofrecernos seguridad a nosotros, están planeando reducir los trabajadores en esa agencia de manera significativa. Y ya como están las cosas hoy día, son muy lentos los sistemas en ese departamento que apoya a los veteranos, que les ofrece beneficios, que les ofrece salud, seguro médico, etcétera. Un punto importante para nuestro condado Harris aquí, las emergencias. Viene ahora la temporada de huracanes, yo soy la directora de la Oficina de Manejo de Emergencias y el año pasado tuvimos 3 desastres naturales declarados a nivel federal, o sea, 3 desastres de un nivel de seriedad e impacto mayor. En esas situaciones vinieron los trabajadores de FEMA, de la Organización de Manejo de Emergencia Nacional, y nos ofrecieron ayuda a las comunidades tan impactadas que una aseguranza, ahorros no son suficientes. En el momento dependimos tanto de esa ayuda, agradecimos mucho el apoyo, pero nos dimos cuenta que aún el año pasado la agencia no tenía suficiente capacidad para apoyarnos. Imagínense ahora que corten los trabajos, los expertos en esa agencia. Otro punto, la experiencia. En cuanto a manejo de emergencias, se requiere esa experiencia, esas relaciones para poder trabajar de una manera eficaz en momentos donde hay caos, en momentos donde no hay tiempo para ver quién hace qué cosa. No podemos despedir a la gente al azar solamente para decir que estamos ahorrando dinero. ¿Cómo ahorrar fondos en cuanto al gobierno federal? Se trata de no bajarle los impuestos a los multimillonarios. Con eso ahorraríamos mucho más de lo que están supuestamente ahorrando con estas destrucciones y este caos. Entonces, lo que queremos ver es que no hayan estos despidos. Queremos hacer claro que la administración lo que quiere son noticias, lo que quiere es caos y atención, pero una propuesta seria de eficiencia identificaría con manera, con cuidado, con análisis, con criterio, cómo vamos a llegar a más eficiencias. Entonces agradezco nuevamente a los abogados aquí del condado, a tantas organizaciones que están trabajando con nosotros en llevar a cabo esta demanda, y espero que el sistema judicial continúe defendiendo las libertades que todos buscamos, la libertad de tener, respirar aire limpio, de beber agua limpia, de tener servicios para nuestros veteranos, para el retiro. Todo eso, todas esas libertades dependen de agencias que están diseñadas para ofrecernos esos servicios. Bueno, muchas gracias nuevamente. Thank you, County Attorney Menefee.
Thank you, Judge. All right, any questions?
Judge Hidalgo, when you talked about the emergency management with hurricane season coming up, say these cuts are upheld, what does a disaster response look like here in Harris County?
People might remember last year, right? If you were probably affected by one of the 3 federally declared disasters that we had last year, and one of the things that we found is for a lot of families, despite insurance, despite savings, the disasters were so massive that they needed immediate federal aid beyond what we could provide to hold them over until all of that kicked in, to make sure that they could keep the kids in school, that they had a roof over their heads, that at least they could get their roof tarped. The way we did that was by having FEMA workers here in Harris County identifying and vetting people, making sure that everything was done properly, that nobody received support that they didn't qualify for, and still that took too long. Things that we were hoping would happen in a day took 5 days. Why? Because they already are understaffed. Here's another piece. So we would have to see slower recovery and resources for people in times of major immediate need if we have a major disaster. Another piece is the weather service and all of these institutions, organizations that we look to when we are preparing to advise the community in terms of what to do during an emergency. Those are the maps that I look at with Jeff Linder. Those are the people that we speak to, both before and during an emergency. So what does it mean exactly? We'll have to be there, but that's not how it should be for an emergency. Emergencies are chaotic enough. We don't need to discover in the middle of an emergency that the maps are delayed, that the information's not there, that the people that we need to talk to have been fired without a transition plan and indiscriminately. So it's a major concern. I hope that the courts will see this and will understand that it's urgent for these plans to be stopped. And of course, you know, we need some transparency. We, just as the rest of the people in this country, wake up every day to find out what new arbitrary cuts there have been. And the reality is that just as we all pay taxes to the federal government, we all do so for a reason, because we depend on those services.
And just real quick follow-up, so y'all had mentioned that you're also waiting on reimbursement for funds from previous storms. Could you get some more specifics, like dollar amounts, and how these cuts could impact the timeline of recovering those funds?
Sure. So we can get you dollar amounts later, but just in the same as any other reimbursement process, right? When you're applying for reimbursement for a particular storm, there's multiple levels of government that are involved in the process, multiple employees at FEMA who are involved in the process. Each one of those people has institutional knowledge, having worked with the county before. But if their job is eliminated without a transition plan and they're just kicked to the curb, that is going to increase wait times for Harris County. As you know, we're a very large organization, a huge county that has seen storm after storm, flood after flood, hurricane after hurricane. We need continuity, and we need to ensure that we're working with people in the federal government who have that legacy knowledge. But right now, the Trump administration is approaching this with an axe instead of a scalpel, and I think we're seeing the real impact of that here on the ground. Other questions?
For Judge
Yep.
Lina Hidalgo, ¿podría en español hablar acerca de la preparación? Viene la temporada de huracanes, ¿de qué manera pudiera impactarnos localmente en la preparación? Ya lo había mencionado, pero en español.
Bueno, viene la temporada de huracanes y es algo que quiero que todos sepan es, nosotros siempre nos estamos preparando cuando hay algo en el Golfo, cuando vemos la posibilidad de que haya un desastre natural, algo que pueda impactar a nuestra comunidad. Y los mapas que estudiamos, los análisis en los cuales basamos nuestras decisiones y nuestras recomendaciones a la comunidad son producidos por estas agencias, específicamente que el presidente está buscando básicamente destruir o eliminar en gran parte. Entonces, ¿qué sucede en el momento que venga otro huracán, una tormenta seria a nuestra región? Bueno, no sabemos, pero los desastres son caóticos y no es prudente esperar a ese momento a darnos cuenta si van a llegar los mapas a tiempo, si van a estar los mismos análisis, si va a estar la persona, los individuos con quienes nos comunicamos. Están llevando a cabo despidos sin planes de transición, sin reemplazos. Entonces, eso es algo muy serio. Y también en el área de recuperación. El año pasado hubieron 3 desastres mayores. Y una de las cosas que aprendimos es que necesitamos ayuda del gobierno federal cuando hay esos desastres tan masivos. Hay individuos que tienen aseguranza, bueno, algunos no, bueno, tengan algunos fondos, pero tarda un tiempo recibir eso. Entonces, para asegurarse que puedan enviarle a los niños a la escuela, que puedan ponerle una tarpa al hogar en unos días en lo que llegan los contratistas. Ese es el tipo de apoyo federal que ofrece la Organización de Manejo de Emergencia Federal, pero el año pasado inclusive ya se tardaron más de lo que sería ideal en poder revisar estas aplicaciones para ayuda. Obviamente tienen que ver que todo sea de acuerdo a la ley, que las personas que reciban la ayuda realmente califiquen. Entonces, tener menos trabajadores este año, que significa retrasos en ayuda para familias que pagan impuestos específicamente para situaciones como estas. Okay.
All right, we've got time for one more.
You just, again, want to just touch on any impact, ongoing discussions about storm readiness or preparedness, and if there's any impact right now.
Yes, so we're right now actively planning for hurricane season, having the same roundtables and conversations that we have to make sure that everybody's ready to quickly work together to pivot on whatever happens and give recommendations to the community. Everybody who works in local government, federal government, we are building our work on the relationships that we have with one another, the ability to work together, to know who we need to reach out to for what information and when. The uncertainty of who will be gone at any given time is a serious concern. We don't know, they don't know. I don't think the president himself knows, or the agency heads. They are being extremely indiscriminate about it. So part of what concerns me on the emergency management and FEMA side, we don't know what we don't know. And that's not a situation you want to be in when it comes to emergency response and preparedness. Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.